What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to this week's Cop Council podcast here on Anfield Agenda. I have brought in a packed crew for you tonight. I've got Tom, I've got Chris, I've got Dave, and I have, of course, got Cash. We are going to start where we always start. I say this every single week, but we're going straight into listeners' questions. Tom, I'm going to put you under the gun, buddy. What's your most embarrassing moment to do with Liverpool Football Club? So I'll let you interpret that question in any way you want, mate. As long as Liverpool are in that story somewhere, you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few to pick from for me personally, but I feel I'll probably go for a recent one, which was last season. And I was having a massive argument with my mates of about just before Christmas, I think it was, about how I think Liverpool are an elite club at that point. And all my mates were saying, nah, you know, you don't win trophies, you've only just in Champions League and all this. And I think that week is when we lost to West Brom or something like that in the FA Cup, and it was just so embarrassing. It was like the one time I needed them to step up and beat like the shittest team in the league, and then it just didn't happen. And yeah, my mate, they ripped me for weeks, and fair enough, because yeah, I got let down and I got very embarrassed by Liverpool then. So yeah, that was pretty peak for me.
They sound like a lot of Spurs fans, and I know where you live, so I know they're probably Palace fans, but they sound like Spurs fans.
There's one Palace fan and one West Ham fan in particular who like to give it a lot. So yeah, you're not far off, mate.
Because you know those Spurs fans have been trying to invent a rivalry with Liverpool over the past couple of years, Tom, and it just isn't there.
Everyone wants a rivalry with us now, don't they, really? Like, now that we're actually smashing it, everyone wants to be our rival. But no, it's only really Everton and Man U for me. Only those two.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, we're a little bit older than the other guys, perhaps. Dave, you're probably included in this. There was a little bit, to be fair, Chris, there was a Chelsea rivalry at one point, particularly in Europe.
Well, there was, but I'd probably still put that in Tom's and Cash's ear as well. It wasn't that long ago, was it? You know, we seemed to play them sort of like 6 times a season. Every time there was a cup draw, we got Chelsea, didn't we, for about 4 or 5 straight years. And it was brilliant. It was loads of needle in the games. Mourinho was being an absolute toss pot, which it was good. It was enjoyable because Benitez rose to it, didn't he? And there was always a constant battle of wits going on. We had a lot of players in the side there who could mix it up as well. So did they. It was good. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed hating them. Whereas, and coming out the back of that, players who were disliked at the time, like you see now, ex-Chelsea players now, and you see them on the TV doing punditry and that, and you think, they're actually really sound people. It's crazy, but for that period of time, I just hated them. It was mad. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, actually.
I always found around that time that part of that rivalry was because Mourinho was sick as a dog that he didn't get the Liverpool job. I always got that impression from Mourinho, that he always wanted that job, and part of this rivalry was his hatred of Liverpool for not giving him the job when Benitez got it.
I think it was, yeah. There was something in that, wasn't there? And although I think a little bit, it seemed to take off after the Champions League semi-final, the goal that never was, and he just got really bitter from that point on. But yeah, leading up to that point, yeah, I suppose that really was one of the reasons why. But I think that was just more him stoking things up. He did used to gesture to our fans a lot, didn't he? But he also seemed to pay a lot of compliments to our fans as well. I don't know if you remember. He always said how amazing Anfield was, how amazing the fans were. And I think at one point, didn't he? I mean, he's not the only manager to do it. I remember Ferguson doing it, alluding to the fact that their fortunes of their side probably would have been a lot better had they had all fans behind them. So you could tell there's perhaps somewhere in his past a bit of a admiration for Liverpool Football Club, and I think he may have wanted at one point, yeah, definitely to have managed Liverpool, but I don't think that'll ever happen now.
I'm not sure if it's an urban myth or if Carragher said that he's seen a Liverpool crest on Mourinho's phone at one time when he first met him or something along those lines before he was Chelsea manager. But I guess it's one of them things that we're never going to know. But coming back to the question, Chris, your most embarrassing moment to do with Liverpool Football Club?
I've not really had anything embarrassing happen to me while supporting Liverpool or anything, so it's a difficult one to answer. So I think the nearest I can think of is, this is a Liverpool-related podcast that we're on, and I once had to admit to being a podium dancer at one time on here, so I suppose that's it, really. And I've just embarrassed myself again. There we go.
You're a fucking legend for that, though, Chris. That's got nothing to do with being embarrassing. That's a legend. Having the balls to get up and do that, to be fair, deserves massive respect. Because there's no way this fat bald Irish twat is getting up and doing it.
It was. I was a lot younger and in much better shape back then. I wouldn't do it now.
And Dave, as a fellow Irishman, I'm sure you've had many, many embarrassing moments over the years. Most of us Irish fellas have. But what's been your most embarrassing one to do with Liverpool Football Club?
Probably falling, excuse me, head over tits in the Cop, going down to the bar and just making an absolute clone of myself.
Bet you didn't spill a drop, though. Bet you didn't spill a drop.
Everything went. So that's my ultimate one. It's about, oh God, it's probably 12 years ago now.
I remember the first time I ever met Dave, I met him outside a pub and he dropped the £1 coin and he went down to get it that quick that it hit him on the back of the neck when he was going down.
Tight.
Cash, you're on this podcast with 4 gentlemen, so you're the only lady here. Give us a funny story.
My funny story is from, I just had to check the year because it was a while ago. It was the 2011 derby. My friends got Everton season tickets because I couldn't get tickets like for the away end. Obviously, I went and watched the derby in the Everton end, and it was the one where Jack Rodwell got sent off. People remember it. It was actually like he had the red card overturned, and it was like a whole big controversial thing. But then after he got sent off, then we went on to win the game 2-0. Both Luis Suarez and Andy Carroll scored in that game, and when we won, we scored the winning goal. I remember forgetting where I was and amongst all these Everton fans and starting to like celebrate. And my friend had to like pull me down and like sit me down and be like, "Shut the fuck up." That was kind of embarrassing. In as much as I had like the angry glare of lots of embittered Evertonians on me for the rest of the game, while I just sort of sat there with my like Diet Coke and my like chips, being like, you know. So that was kind of embarrassing because I felt a bit like I wish they'd let me celebrate more, but then it would have just been me being like ejected from the stadium with like several broken bones. It was kind of embarrassing. I suppose that's probably my most embarrassing story, having to be restrained by Everton fans. It's hard because it kind of was embarrassing, but also empowering because I was like, we still won the game, whether you're allowing me to overtly celebrate or not. But it was kind of embarrassing in as much as you don't want Johnny from fucking Bootle giving you daggers for the rest of the match, which is what kind of transpired. Johnny, if you're listening to this, because you've switched over to the right side of the Mersey, I forgive you. I don't. You're still a cunt.
I think if there's one set of fans around who you can get away with being a Liverpool fan, you know, it's them, isn't it? I think they're quite used to it. Got a lot of families split down the middle, go to the games together, aren't you? So.
Yeah, there's definitely, to be fair, there isn't usually that much animosity, but I think the idea of someone in their end of the stadium overtly celebrating their misfortune was probably a bit much for them to take.
Can you imagine if we asked this question to a group of Everton fans? There'd be just so much embarrassment that we'd have one question, the show would be an hour and a half long, and we wouldn't be able to talk about any football.
I think the easier question would be, can you give us some moments that weren't embarrassing? Because it'd be a shorter answer, wouldn't it? So.
And they'd start telling you then about Jordan Pickford's performances during this World Cup, because they're not going to shut up about that. Now, them and Spurs fans are going to take this World Cup personally if England actually go on to lift it. It's going to be just because of Everton and Spurs. Watch.
Jordan Pickford has been good in this World Cup in spite of his season at Everton, in the sense of, like, if anything, maybe it's grounded him and made him ready because he's faced, you know, lots of hungry attacks all season. But Everton shouldn't dare try and take credit for that.
Thank you to Charlie for that question, by the way. And Tom, we move on to the next question, which comes from Rob Mulholland. And Rob wants to know, does Harry Maguire's head have its own gravity because the ball seems to be pulled to it by some unseen force?
100%. In fact, I think it's got both gravity and anti-gravity, by the way. That header bulleted into the back of the net against Sweden, it was. God, yeah. The one thing I find funny is when he did that VAR symbol, and it was basically like the perfect kind of shape of his head when he was doing it, like literally like right around his massive blockhead. It was hilarious.
Slam head is what they're calling them, which I think is great.
But yeah, look, whatever you say about Harry Maguire, I think he's performed so good at this World Cup. I know this was kind of a question to try and wreck him, but yeah, no, I know he's got a massive blockhead, but who gives a fuck when he's smashing them in like from every corner, like on it, like he's been so good, and he's pretty damn good on the ball as well. So fair play to him. But yeah, he does have a rather large, massive blockhead on him. Yeah, he does.
Chris,
Harry Minecraft.
He does. He's a mixture between that and Mr. fucking Potato Head. I was looking through the England team photo, and you're just like normal head, Norman head, Jesse Lingard little head, and then Harry Maguire massive head. And I've underestimated him a little bit, Chris. I've called him the pudding at times. I've flagged him off, but he's been mightily impressive for England during this World Cup.
Yeah, I started the tournament sort of bringing the ball out a little too slowly. It kind of slowed, but I think the whole back three were guilty of that. But as the tournament's gone on, he's improved. But as good as he has apparently been with his head, he's put like the previous 10 headers he's connected with from corners and free kicks like 50 yards over the bar, to be fair. That's the only one he's really connected with well. But he's been threatening. He's been threatening to do it, hasn't he? I like him. He's a good player. He really is a good player. He's not outstanding. He's a steady Eddie player. I do like him. I mean, you wouldn't turn your nose up at him playing for Liverpool, would you? I don't think anybody would. But he's I think Dejan's doing just as well, isn't he, for Croatia, to be honest. But yeah, he's been all right, hasn't he, Maguire? I enjoyed watching him, to be honest. I like his attitude. I've heard he takes his kit to the ground in a bin bag and all that kind of stuff. There's no airs or graces with him. He's just a normal guy. And I think that's why people like Pickford as well. He just looks like a bin man or something, doesn't he? Or a scaffolder or, he does, doesn't he? It looks like he's just jumped off a scaffolding, had his sandwiches and thought, there's a football game going on over there. I'm going to join in. Yeah, I'm in goal, lads.
He's funny on Instagram, like Pickford. He has this hashtag that he always said called, it's like hashtag send them in, and then hashtag get the rave on and stuff. He's a proper weirdo. Like if you look particularly at his older Twitter, that's less like media trained now. He seems like a bit of an eccentric, which I like.
I've been looking at it. Yeah, he's a little bit of he probably drinks Diet Chav, and
he's definitely on the full version. He's definitely on the full version. He's full on Chav, definitely. No Diet Chav for him.
But I'm saying right throughout that England side, there's a lot of them that I think they just appeal to Middle Britain, if you know what I mean. Middle England, sorry. Just people we can relate to. You know what I mean?
So much Yorkshire.
We can't let this go on, Chris, without telling the listeners about what happened before we start recording. You're talking about Middle Englanders now, and you're talking about people doing stupid stuff. We were just about to record, and go on, tell the listeners what happened.
I had a knock at my door, and obviously I've got my headphones on, so I didn't hear it. So some guy shouted through my letterbox or my window or something. You guys heard it, I didn't. Telling me I've left the lights in my work van on. So I go outside, and he looks really proud of himself that he's helped me out here and everything. And I noticed that he's got his headlights on, or even his main beams, and there's no need because it's just so bright outside. And obviously, that's illuminating my headlights on my van. So my lights weren't on. What an idiot. It was nice of him knock on, though. So, yeah, he...
Middle England.
On, not mine. Yeah.
Listeners, if you're not based in England, don't move there. This is what happens.
I thought Dave's answer was pretty good, though, Cash, where he told him to tell him that he has a solar-powered van.
Yeah. I feel like... Yeah, if you'd said that, I don't know, I feel like this guy really just wanted to come in for a cup of tea and stuff. You just have to, like, shut the door, get him away, and not engage. I think that's the key.
He would have been on the podcast now.
He'd have been like, listeners, let me tell you about my van. Oh.
Come in here and tell us about all them foreigners coming over to your country, taking all the jobs. Come on, come in, sit down, have a cup of tea.
Yeah, he probably would start a conversation with, right, now let me tell you why Brexit is a good thing.
Oh God!
You know what? Harry Maguire probably voted Remain. That's what I believe. I believe he would have voted Remain.
He definitely signs his name with an X.
Tattoo on his neck.
Sorry?
He had a Brexit tattoo on his neck.
Harry Maguire's head's so big that one part of his head could be in the EU and the other could be out of the EU. So in theory, his head could be part England, part France.
So this is turned into a full-on Your Mama, but with his head. So Your Mama is so fat, blah blah blah.
Harry's head's so big.
So whilst he's dealing with the World Cup, in his head he's having his own referendum. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, definitely. But he probably
fair play to him.
I feel like he's quite Yeah, no, he has a very large head. Like it can't be denied. Has anyone seen that? Like, obviously, you probably have the meme that's gone like viral with all the different like quotes and stuff that like Kyle Walker has done and he's done to it. I think it's really funny.
No, I haven't seen it personally.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Sorry, right? Okay, so it's just a meme of him. It's just a meme of him leaning over the stand in the stadium talking to his girlfriend, and everybody's been like taking.
Was that his girlfriend?
Yeah, and then like Kyle Walker captioned it something funny. Yeah, and then Harry Maguire wrote today something like, yeah, can you tell the neighbours to take the bins out tomorrow? I'm not coming home for another week, something like that. It's gone viral. I don't know.
She looks like
probably a genuine request.
There's no wonder he takes his kit in a bin bag.
Dave, do you know, getting back to Jordan Pickford for a second, do you remember that penalty shootout that England were in, and Jordan Pickford, I was going to say Jordan Henderson. I think, did you see his routine was that he bounced across his line, he bounced up and pushed the crossbar so the crossbar shook. I think he was just fucking proving to people that he could actually touch the bar.
I know, T-Rex arms, yeah. Like he's had his arms are just so out of proportion to his body. He is like a T-Rex. He really is.
He's definitely buying into this whole hype around himself as well. He really is strutting around like he is Gianluigi Buffon.
I'm going Velociraptor. To be fair, he's a good goalkeeper. He's just not very big, is he? I think that's all it is. In terms of his technique, where he needs to be, his reactions, things like that, he's a good goalkeeper. But didn't he got lobbed like 2 yards off his line last season? That we have to remember things like that. He's not.
That's right. That was a comical goal, in fairness. And just his little arms going like this, trying to save it.
I think.
The thing about him though is if he was Spanish or Portuguese or German, they'd be raving about him. That's the thing as well. It's like most English players, because they're not, so glamorous name wise, or I suppose where they're from, that it gets overlooked. That I hate to admit it, but he is actually a very good goalkeeper. He commands his area really well. His communications are good, and his distribution isn't bad either. So
he's just a poor man's Lawrence Karius.
Yeah.
No, but the thing about it is that like you're right, like Dave, and what you say in terms of like area. Like if he was from, Washington DC as opposed to Washington like Tyne and Weir, like you'd be raving about him. I think he's had a really, really good tournament. But as I say, Thibaut Courtois, didn't he like slag him off and basically say like that he wasn't very tall and all this? And then after the Colombia game, he was like, well, look at me saving all these shots like a tall keeper. I was like, okay, Jordan.
Courtois not realise that he's one of the ugliest human beings like I'd ever put on the planet, and he's going around slagging off other people with his big fucking beak hanging off him like.
That's
what he looks. He looks like Dracula from Sesame Street. Count Dracula.
Yeah. I think he looks like them vultures off.
1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
Oh, Courtois, what do you want to do?
He's got 2 kids, so just go to show if you've got money, you can get the ladies. Like,
we figured that out with Harry Maguire a few minutes ago, beanbag man and his good-looking bird. Like,
Harry Maguire's not like.
No, hang on, relax there, Cash. He is like, to be fair, come on.
Look, no, but he's just completely out of proportion. Like, it's not that his features are deformed or anything. It's just that they're all too large for any human being's body. Like, whereas like Thibaut Courtois, has like extra like addendums on his body that don't need to be there. Like, what the fuck's everything all about?
You know about the dick on his head?
He's getting
right on my nerves, Courtois. But he really does remind me of them vultures off Jungle Book. He really does. Just the way he stands and everything, it's all I can think of when I see him. Every time he opens his mouth, I wish I was there. Every time he opens his mouth, I wish I was stood next to him so I could go, now don't start that again. It really does.
Weren't them vultures meant to be based off the Beatles?
They were, yeah. Well,
they were. I was thinking, Look, fellas, yeah.
All right, we'll push on with some real questions.
Sorry, go on.
Tom, the next question comes in from Iniazado, and what he wants to know is, with Dejan Lovren's performances during this World Cup and the fact that he's just about to knock England out in the semi-finals, will he perhaps be seen as one of the best 10 defenders in the world? And there's a follow-up question to that comes in from Luke, and Luke wants to know, do we still need to go out and buy a centre-back? So if we can put aside the fact that Dejan Lovren's about to knock your ass out of the World Cup, we just talk about him as a defender and the fact that he's going to make you cry.
Well, when Harry Maguire scores against him in a corner, then I think we'll have to kind of revisit that sentence that you've just pushed at me twice in a row, Craig.
They're defo putting Vida on Harry Maguire, definitely.
Vida, right, let's talk about Vida. Is the ugliest man left of this World Cup. Like, I know we talked about Courtois, but that haircut is a fucking shocker. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just want to throw that in there.
He's a poor man's Andre Voronin, that's all he is.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. But Lovren, yeah.
No way.
Well, I don't know, it's a run for his money. But Lovren, anyway, he has done very well this World Cup, and I think I can speak on behalf of most Liverpool fans in general. We were, at that Tottenham game that we all speak about in November, everyone was thinking, like, what the fuck's going to happen with Lovren now? And now you look at him and think, wow, he's actually like a pretty solid and damn decent centre-back. And this World Cup has again reaffirmed that. I thought in the Champions League final, he was arguably one of our best players. I thought he performed very well in that final. Top 10 in the world is still very much a push for him. I think he has to do what he's doing now consistently for probably at least one season without, with maybe one or two mistakes. I don't know if that, but any more than that, and he's just going to be hounded out again. So yeah, top 10 is definitely a push. He can do it. Like I said, if he keeps up this performance, then he can definitely do that, but he has to do it consistently for at least one season, I think, throughout. But props to him, like, for coming back. Like, this is the biggest comeback since, well, firstly since Justin Bieber, and then secondly since Alberto Moreno. But he's had a bit of a drop off himself. So if he can do that, if he can keep it up, then fair fucking play to Dejan.
The good news though is Justin Bieber still going strong, Tom. So it's all good.
Exactly. Yeah, he's bagged himself a Baldwin apparently. So yeah, it's not too shabby for him.
Chris, did you see Lovren had a bit of a moment in the quarter-final? He played a stray ball across, and I was praying that Russia didn't capitalise on that, because I did not want that to be the narrative around Dejan Lovren again.
It would be as well, wouldn't it? That's the sad thing about it. People would forget, like, the consistently good form he's been on, and then judge him based on one mistake. Like, players don't make mistakes. But on that question, could he be, not, he won't automatically be one of the top 10 defenders, centre backs in the world, based on current form. But like Tom said, if he keeps it up, and he does have all of the tools, and I think we've heard Klopp say the same thing. He's got all of the tools. If he was to build or draw, what was it Klopp said? If he was to draw or put together the perfect centre back, he would be it. He's got all of the things needed. You'd think at his age now, he would, if he was ever going to be one of the top 10 centre backs in the world, he'd probably be there now. I think from our point of view, from Liverpool's point of view, I don't think we need him to be. We just need him to be the consistent good centre back that he's been for the last sort of 6 months or so, and have that over a full season next season alongside Van Dijk. That would do us nicely. And to further then answer the second question, I don't think we need to buy a centre back to replace him. If we do buy a centre back, it's because he's young, got potential, and can grow into the side long term. But I think we've already got that in Gomez, to be honest. I think we're quite set at centre back, considering the personnel isn't much different than it was last year, and everyone's heads were falling off because we hadn't brought Van Dijk in. And not only have we not brought Van Dijk in, but we didn't sign an alternative to Van Dijk. I think it's quite amazing that we're all quite chilled about our defence next season. By that I just mean the back four and who's available to play in it. It's strange that is, isn't it, really? Because the personnel's no different. I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite relaxed.
Cash, it does show at times quite how fickle us football fans can be, because if you had have asked us straight after that Spurs game, was there any way back for Dejan Lovren, we would have all, probably to a man or woman, said no, no way, no chance, except Chris, obviously, because Chris is rational and we're not. But he would have actually thought about it and thought, well, look, it's one mistake. But the rest of us jump on the bandwagon at times and just think, look, that was shocking. And he had previous, I think it's fair to say as well, he hadn't just made that mistake, but the turnaround in form, I mean, we can't downplay it. He looks like an absolute top-notch centre-back at this moment in time, and he does look like one of the best in the world. I don't think there's any other way of saying it. He's in a semi-final of a World Cup with Croatia, and he's been one of the better players throughout the tournament. He was, as Tom pointed out, he was one of our better players in the Champions League final, and he's totally won me over. I'm very happy to see Dejan Lovren out next season alongside Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you were to measure the quality of a player and where they rank in the world purely based on their ability, skill, age, if that's a factor in terms of like when you peak, then you would say maybe Dejan Lovren isn't in the top 10 and can never be. But then if you actually look, I think there's more than those elements in terms of the actual game that make up a top player. And one of those elements is resilience and mental strength. And if you're adding that into the technical aspects of the game that set players apart, those two things combined, if you have them both in abundance, then you can elevate yourself into those like higher echelons, like the top 10 in the world. So for me, if you're assessing Dejan Lovren in the context of all of those factors, he is at this moment in time in the top 10 in the world. I think it's reductive to be like, well, he's 29, so therefore he probably won't get any better, so he may not stay in the top 10 in the world for very much longer, etc. and so on. If you're just talking about purely in the moment, then he is one of the best. And you would argue, and I for one was an advocate of the whole he cannot have a successful career at Liverpool after the Spurs debacle. I very much was in that camp, and I won't deny that. But given that we assess football on a day-by-day basis, moment by moment, we should just allow him to enjoy it, because nobody sees the actual anguish of behind closed doors of what a player goes through when they collapse so monumentally. So, on the back of that, at this moment in time, playing like one of the best centre-backs in the world, you can see that in his demeanour. He knows that. He's enjoying it. And why not just let him enjoy it? And as I say, I think we can all agree that if a player is measured as much by their ability to bounce back as they are by everything else, he's up there. He has to be.
You know what? I agree with everything you've said there. He put a lot of work in behind the scenes, or if I remember correctly, last summer and stuff, he was posting videos, Instagram videos of him and his brother and stuff, working out, running on the beach, doing stuff to get ready for the season. And he's one player, Cash, that I genuinely get the feeling he absolutely adores playing for Liverpool Football Club. I think that means an awful lot to Dejan Lovren.
Yeah, you can see that. I think he's the kind of guy that carries a lot of passion with him, club or country. And you could see by the way he sort of forced through the move to Liverpool that he really, really wanted it. He saw it as his opportunity at an elite club. And, a lot of players would have had the collapse that he had and either been shipped out against their will or would have wanted to leave because they would have wanted a fresh start elsewhere. But it's the fact that he has found his place at Liverpool. He wants to win trophies with us. He wants to establish something of a legacy with us. He's stuck in there. And I think as fans, I know personally as a fan, I want players who are the best, but I also want players who it genuinely looks like it means something to play for the club, because otherwise I'm not interested in them. As I said, we've had some technically phenomenal players, but if it doesn't really mean as much to them, I'm not as endeared by them. So yeah, it does mean a lot to him. You can see that. And I think he is someone that if he maintains his current level or close to that, there's no reason why he and Van Dijk can't have a successful partnership over the next, 3-4 years, because, he looks after himself well. He's very clearly in good shape. He's just turned 29. So you're looking, 32 is a little bit, I suppose, older and you're heading toward the twilight of your career. But, he's a player that I'd give every chance to establish a long-standing and successful partnership and just see where it takes us.
I also love Dave saying the phrase Degsy Lovren. I love saying that name. I don't know what it is about it. There's something brilliant about saying Degsy Lovren. Do you know what, Dave? If I was the English media heading towards the semi-final meeting between Croatia and England. I will be making sure damn well to be bringing back up all these stories around financial improprieties going in and around the Croatian team, and I'd be reminding them every fucking 2 minutes, and I'd be blowing it up out of all proportion. I'd be running crazy stories. If I was the Daily Mirror, I'd be coming up with cock and bull schemes to try and undermine all these Croatian players. They haven't played, that Croatian team, like they have an ounce of trouble on their mind. Like, it's been brilliant to see.
No, they've been very good. I think we mentioned as well before, like regarding England 2-0, they were unspectacular, but it was a good spectacular because there's always, England games are always kind of, you're always on the edge of your seat. What they're going to do? Are they going to mess up? Just very, very steady. And as Chris said, it was like they had a couple of gears to go left in the game. Regarding Lovren, I think Lovren he's very much a confidence-based defender. And if his confidence is high, his performance will be high. But is he going to be that defender who's maybe one mistake away from it kind of falling down again, and then he has to build himself back up, and you're just back to square one? Hopefully not. But if he continues confident and continues his form in this World Cup, because let's be honest, he's been absolutely outstanding in this World Cup, because you haven't noticed him either. You really haven't noticed him. He's done everything right. He's been consistently very good. Again, 100% agree. The champions, arguably our best player on the pitch. He was absolutely fantastic. And he's been very, very good since Christmas. Consistently very good. Rarely in the news, because he's just been steady. And he's been consistent. He has that confidence. And long may that continue, because I do actually like him as a defender. I was kind of in that camp. What are we going to do with him? Does he hit the club, and especially after the Spurs game? But he certainly does, and you can see why Klopp gave him that new contract that time as well.
Absolutely. And you know what, Tom, I reckon if we have a little word with Eggsy Lovren, he's now, as we know, opened that new hotel. I reckon he'd be up for stocking Diet Chav in the bar in his Croatian Wonder Hotel.
Oh, definitely. I think it's mandatory now for Liverpool players. If they open any kind of eatery or hotel or any kind of business, they have to have a full stock of Diet Chav in them. Bankrolled by yours truly, but you know, we'll get it out. We'll get it to every corner of the world, and it will definitely kick off. We'll have some great sponsorship deals. We'll get Nivea involved as well. You know, they can rub their lovely cream on the outside of the cans to make it soft to touch. Everyone's going to be all over that shit. It's going to be beautiful.
Sounds good.
I feel like
we can have Loris Karius doing the whole Diet Chav moment where he's in the shower and the water coming down over his head. We can even have the Baywatch music that somebody already put over his Instagram video playing.
That video made me less attracted to men.
The shower will actually be, it won't be water, it will be Diet Chav coming out of the shower, and he'll be rubbing it all over his face and all over his lovely body, with the Baywatch music, of course.
Of course. Obviously, we'll do a rap version of that Baywatch song, just to keep on brand with the Diet Chav brand. But anyway, look, Tom, pre-season started yesterday for the Reds, and we had a little chat before we came on. The reason I brought Loris Karius into the chat was because of something you brought up just before we came on. The video that was going around, the video that was doing the circles in Liverpool Twitter and stuff of his warm-up. And if that's where this season's going to go, if that's an indication of what people are trying to put against him already, then he's in for a tough time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say, basically. Just a quick run through on my opinion on Karius. Before, I was very skeptical of him. Towards the end of the season, he was playing a lot better. I was warming to the idea of him being our #1 keeper, but I still would have liked to bring in a new keeper. The Champions League happened. We all know what happened there. Now I'm very much in the camp of I want a new keeper. I don't think he's a terrible keeper. It wouldn't be the end of the world if he was still our #1, but in my view, I would much rather go out and get someone better and take us to that next level. But what I was saying with this was, this pre-season hadn't even started at this point. Yeah, this was a warm-up before a pre-season game against Chester, right? And in the background you see him that he's catching some really normal balls, like someone shooting them at him. They're really easy, and he's just catching them. And then there's this one that he just lets slip, and it goes under his hands, through his legs in the goal. And you're thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go again. Look how shit Karius is and all that. And people are putting that on Twitter, and fair enough. Look, if you pick up on that, you've got a really good eye, and fair play, because I wouldn't have noticed that. And yes, I agree with you. I don't think he's the best keeper either, and I'd want to get a new keeper. But what I'm trying to say is, if that's the level of scrutiny that he's going to come under in a warm-up for a pre-season game, when our season hasn't even started, then he is in for a fucking terrible season. I'm sorry. Like, mentally, he's going to be absolutely fucked if he's on any social media, or, you know, on the whole of social media itself will be completely fucked, because any tiny little thing he does wrong, even in a warm-up, is going to be a barrage of fucking abuse, and then people saying, "Oh, you're shit, we need a new keeper. Klopp shit. Why didn't we get a new keeper in the summer? It's the same old, same old." And that's the point I'm trying to make. It's just like, he's going to have a tough season if he's going to keep getting that throughout. And I would still like a new keeper, but, you know, if he's going to be Liverpool keeper, then we have to back him, and we can't put him under that kind of microscope. Like, that's insane. He's already going to be mentally shot, in my opinion. And if he's going to keep getting that, it's just going to get worse.
Chris, I feel like I need to bring you into this conversation. Sorry, Cash, I will come back to you on that one. Chris, we had a little chat about this in the WhatsApp group early on in the week, and I think it's fair enough to say, and I don't like admitting this at times because I hate admitting I'm ever wrong, but I think in this argument or this conversation, you put me in my place to a degree. You made some very good points. You showed me I was a hypocrite, which I've admitted on the podcast numerous times, so that's nothing new. But if Dejan Lovren can come back from what he came back from, you're right to suggest to me that Loris Karius should at least get the opportunity to do the same. Now, I'm with Tom. I still prefer us to have a new goalkeeper. But I get where you're coming from, buddy, and I respect your point. So I just want to get you to give us the opposing side, or the calmer side to this whole Loris Karius situation.
Well, it comes down to the narcissism of football fans with me. We, as football fans, have a nervous disposition when it comes to certain players. So we expect that player to have the same nervous disposition. So everybody thinks Karius is going to be mentally fucked because he made a mistake in the Champions League final, and carry that forward into his next game or his next run of games, which isn't necessarily the case. It's not going to happen. No, it isn't necessarily going to happen. Because you're nervous doesn't mean he's going to be nervous. And we've seen it times many. I don't just, you know, I brought Lovren up. That was just the nearest example. But Henderson had 2 solid seasons of abuse. Lucas had a couple of solid seasons of abuse. You know, and just as relevant, really, isn't it? It doesn't matter whether it's down to mistakes or just whether it's down to a general opinion on whether a player is good enough. But they've taken dogs abuse and they turned it around. Lucas left the club a fan's favourite, and everybody now is telling the rest of the country how good, look, see how good Jordan Henderson really is. Players, these are top sports people, surrounded by top sports people. And I know people, I've even heard people say, how are his teammates going to trust him? They're his teammates. They trust him. They trusted him in the first place. They're not going to distrust him on the back of one game. And people say, how is he going to deal with the fact that he made a big mistake on the biggest, you know, in the biggest game in club football? Well, he's already got himself an out, hasn't he, with the concussion? If he believes that it wasn't him directly and it was some other force, i.e. in this case concussion, that caused the mistakes, he's going to forgive himself. So the problem isn't Karius, the problem isn't Klopp, the problem isn't the players around him, the problem is fans. The fans can't forgive him. And then the fans have got to look at themselves and go, right, do I back this player who was part of the best, whilst he was in the side, we had the best defensive record. I'm not saying that was down to him, but it was a collective. There was him, Lovren, Van Dijk, Klavan for a period of time, Gomez for a period of time, Trent mainly, Robbo coming in and being solid. It was a collective effort, and the team as a whole defended better as well. But he was part of that. And all of the stats back him up as being a top goalkeeper. And I'm not saying he is a top goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong. I can see that he's got mistakes in him. And I think lots of players have got mistakes in them, though. I think the problem here is we're expecting now, if he stays in the side, we're expecting us to have a problem next season. Like, we're not going to win anything, or we're not going to challenge for anything. Well, he was in the side this season just gone, and we did challenge to win the biggest competition in club football. We made the top 4. And for a period of time whilst he was in the side, no other team in the Premiership conceded less goals. So I don't get on board with this doomsday sort of attitude towards him being number one next season. Yes, I'm like any other fan, whereas if we went out and spent a world record fee on Oblak, absolutely fine. I'm as happy as Larry, not a problem with that at all. But by the same token, I don't have a problem with Karius starting next season, because all we need is a good, solid, confident Karius, and there's no reason why we can't have that. There really isn't. Nobody can explain to me any reason as to why he won't go into next season confident and free from anything that happened in that Champions League final.
Very good points, Chris. Very eloquently made. And Cash, apologies for cutting you off earlier on before you came in, but what would you like to add to this Karius conversation?
The first thing is that I'd like to say I really agreed with two of Chris's points, particularly the one where you said that the first one where you said it's not about the players or the management and the people that they has around them, it's about fans' forgiveness. And I agreed that is totally the issue. And the second point you made was really good, and I don't remember what it was, but it was really good, and I remember being really impressed when you made it, but I don't remember which one it was. But what I was going to add to the conversation, and Chris has touched on it briefly, is about the concussion issue. Now, firstly, I'll set up my position. I am in the same camp as Tom and Craig in as much as I do want us to sign a new goalkeeper. And I said this on Twitter the other day, but I want us to sign a new goalkeeper because we need a new goalkeeper. Like, look at the facts. Mignolet looks like he's going to leave. Daniel Ward clearly isn't rated. So purely numerically, if you remove every other aspect, purely from a numbers perspective, Grabara is not ready to be in contention for the first team yet, even though there's high hopes for him. So purely from a numerical standpoint, we need a new goalkeeper. Now, there seems to be a lot of admonishment on Twitter for fans who say that because other fans say or accuse those fans of not having compassion for the fact that Karius had concussion. Now, that does colour things completely differently, and I do agree with that. But you can want us to sign a new goalkeeper and still appreciate the position that Karius was in the Champions League final at the same time. The two things are not, mutually exclusive. You can want a new goalkeeper, but understand that Karius's performance was influenced, to a degree, an undetermined degree, by his concussion. So that's mainly what I wanted to add to the conversation, was the fact that if you want a new goalkeeper, purely from a footballing and numerical perspective, great. You do not need to crucify Karius. Personally, as a fan, I've forgiven him. Like, I forgave him quite soon after the game, like, in the sense of, it's football. Like, it's an important thing in all of our lives, but Karius didn't do that to betray anybody. I forgave him a long time ago. I don't know who these fans are, or these so-called fans who are holding on to this, months after the event. You have to forgive the player. But I do agree with what Tom said insofar as he will be scrutinised what a footballer is scrutinised tenfold, which is already an unhealthy degree of scrutiny. So, like Tom said, you must have, if you could have spotted that mistake in the warm-up yesterday, you must have a keen eye. But the reality is, fans are looking for the mistake. It wasn't just a spot that happened by accident. They're looking at everything he's doing, and that's not eagle eye. That's them pointedly sitting down and saying, I'm going to watch everything Karius does, and any slight mistake I'm going to crucify. And I think that is a huge problem. It's the fact that fans are looking for a mistake to further vindicate their position that he is beyond redemption. And I don't get on board with that, and I won't subscribe to that, but that doesn't mean I don't want a new goalkeeper for other reasons.
In some weird way, guys, the fact that we have a pre-season now and we're not going to be back at Anfield for a while may well benefit Karius, because he'll get a chance to go on the pre-season tour of America. He'll get a chance to travel a bit with the team, get to see his teammates again, have a bit of fun along the way, a bit of training, play a few games and get his confidence up before it comes. Is it Torino? Is Torino the only game that we have at Anfield, or is there another one? Am I missing out on one?
Yeah.
No, that was it.
Torino, I think.
There was the Mönchengladbach one, but they cancelled that, didn't they? So
yes, it's true.
They were trying to pinch toys out of a pram, so we said no, you're not having that. No game for Mönchengladbach. Dave, just getting back to the pre-season game yesterday and the Reds back in action. Who's this Danny Sturridge lad that was playing the second half, scored a couple of goals? He looks quite good.
Yeah, he looked good, and I wouldn't look into it too much. He was playing in long league team of Chester. But, you know, I was just happy that he just didn't break down after 10 minutes. He got 2 really good goals, took them really well, which you'd expect from Danny Sturridge. Hopefully he has a good pre-season under his belt, because either way, I can still see the lad going. I don't think his fitness over a course of what we'd be aiming for, 65 game plus season, is going to be trusted. But if he has a good pre-season for us and he does bag in a few goals and he looks sharp, well, hopefully that will increase his equity as well, and then the club will be able to cash in on him. I do like Daniel Sturridge. I just think he's been extremely unfortunate young lad with injuries. But I wouldn't begrudge him leaving for another Premier League club. And if we get a few quid for him, great. But yeah, he looked good yesterday.
Tom, he's entering into the last year of his Liverpool contract, and the motherfucker does this to us every summer, doesn't he? We think that's it, we're getting rid of Daniel Sturridge. No more Daniel Sturridge. He's not fit. He can't last. Then he goes in pre-season, he bangs in a couple, and Twitter goes up in flames with people saying, I don't know, this might be the year for Danny Sturridge. He might be able to do it. What's your take on the Sturridge situation, buddy?
Yeah, I don't know, quite similar to Dave. I mean, yeah, I 100% get on board with what you're saying there, because he's always got that kind of quality about him, doesn't he? Like, I don't think anyone says that he's a crap player. Like, if you put him in front of a goal with a ball, then he's probably going to score. Like, I think everyone can agree his striking is fantastic. It's just, I feel like he's lost a lot of pace now as well, which was quite a big part of his game. I mean, look, if he can stay fit for a while, I wouldn't be begrudged to see him even stay if he can actually play a bit part role in the team. But I just don't see it happening now. Like, he's probably on quite a lot of wages as well. I don't think Klopp would want him still in that team if he's got like Ryan Brewster and Solanke. I think he'll play them over him. So in my eyes, I'd probably see him go into another Premier League team as well. Yeah, probably something like Newcastle potentially. I think he's been linked with. So somewhere like that, I think would be good for him.
Just ask you a question though. Kiev, when Mo Salah went off, if he was on the bench, would you have brought him on before Lallana?
100%.
I mean, what was the score? What was the score at that point? Was it 0-0?
It was still 0-0, wasn't it? Oh no, was it 1-0?
Nah, I would have. I would have stayed.
It was 0-0.
I would have stayed. I would have stayed with Lallana, because I know he's got the legs to last the rest of that game. With Sturridge, he could have been injured in about 2 or 3 minutes, and Lallana could press them.
Bear in mind, Lallana's played less football than Sturridge had that season. But what I'm saying is, the thing with Sturridge is, you don't need him for 60 games a season, and you don't need him for 60 minutes a game. He's got 1 year left on his contract, so we're not going to make big money off him. He's got huge wages. So I think I can actually see a similar situation this season that happened last season, where I think he'll be about at least until January. And then if we're out of, let's say, a couple of cup competitions and the number of games that we would need him for have reduced drastically, then we may see him go out on loan again and then see out the rest of his contracts at another club. But I think we might find a use for him. Or maybe Origi, maybe not both, but I think Origi's easier to move on than Sturridge at this point. But what you cannot question with Sturridge is his absolute innate ability to score goals, to create something. He's one of the most gifted players I've ever seen in a Liverpool shirt. It's an absolute tragedy that he's been injured most of his time at the club. But if he can just be fit, just for a few months, that could help us massively.
I think a lot of that, like you kind of highlighted, depends on what happens with the likes of Origi and Solanke, because, you know, both of those could quite easily go out on loan, or Origi might be sold. So if both of those are out of the club, then Sturridge, there could definitely be a place for him. On the vice versa, he might decide to keep Origi. You know, we never know. And then Sturridge, no, I can't see him staying. If Origi's staying or Solanke, I can't see Sturridge staying.
I don't think he's going to keep Origi though. He's gone into the last year of his contract as well.
Origi won't be at the club in 4 weeks' time. That I can nearly guarantee. I don't know anything, but that I can guarantee. He just does not fit that club system at all.
And he's proven himself to be pretty, like, he didn't have a good loan spell at Wolfsburg last season either.
No. He's pretty unintelligent as a footballer in that club system. Like, even the offsides he was yesterday, it was just not concentrating. It was, switch on, lad. It's pre-season. Come on.
Well,
No.
here's another thing we noticed towards the end of last season, that Klopp liked to see games out playing a 3-5 or a 5-3-2 formation, or a 3-5-2, depending on who you're playing. So switching to 2 centre forwards, that's got Sturridge written all over it towards the end of games. You know, I think there's something in that, and I think the thing is with Sturridge, we've seen that little of him over the last couple of seasons. I think we just forget just how good he is at playing football. He really is a gifted footballer, and I just think, just for the last year, what could we make off him now? Next to nothing.
I'd say you're hoping to just get his wages off the books if you're going to move him on. I think you're not even going to take
150 grand a week.
Yeah, he's one of our biggest earners. I mean, I think the thing with Sturridge though is that the one thing we've not discussed in this is the players' desires and the players' mindset. So if Chris is right, and I agree with you, Chris, actually, insofar as he could definitely play a role, you know, this season if we switch to, you know, a 5-3-2 system, or, you know, if we're looking to see games out, or, you know, if we need someone like we did in Kiev to come on and provide a goal scoring threat, he definitely could play a role, albeit I think it would be peripheral. But would the player be happy with that? Would the player accept that? Because I think so much of this potential plan is contingent upon his mindset. So if he is in the position where he's like, well, I'm 29 now, I've got one big contract left in me, you know, I want to show the best of myself, I'm not going to do that playing, you know, 10 minutes a game every game, then you're in trouble. But if the player accepts that because of his fitness issues, he is going to be bit part, then he can have a role to play. And I wouldn't, in terms of strikers we have at the club, you know, and not including Bobby, he's the most gifted by a fucking mile. Most gifted by a mile. Forget about Origi, Ings, Solanke. He's the most gifted by an absolute mile. And if he could apply that, it would be fantastic. But I don't think Klopp is up for like questionable contingency plans. He wants something he can rely upon.
He's probably a better footballer than Bobby. He probably is. No, he probably is.
Chris, listen to yourself, mate.
Right? No. What you don't? So you don't think you think Bobby's a better passer, better dribbler, better goal scorer than Sturridge?
Bobby's better at everything.
As a centre forward, Daniel Sturridge is miles better than Bobby Firmino.
The only thing Sturridge would have is genuine like shooting is probably the only thing, and even then it's not by like a big enough distance. It's
but you're all forgetting one thing. Bobby's at a massive disadvantage. Bobby doesn't look at the goal when he shoots. So he's already at a massive disadvantage.
Exactly.
Bobby's at a massive...
Give me both players. Give me both players in front of goal, last minute, just to keep it a beat. I'm backing Sturridge over Bobby.
So all that is that's shooting. That's shooting. So he's not a better player. That his shooting is better, is what you're saying, which I agree with.
Give me both players on the edge of the box with Salah in the box, waiting to receive a pass in the last minute to score a goal. I'm giving the ball to Sturridge again. Sturridge is, and I think it's just because we don't watch him every week anymore and we forget just how good he is a better footballer than Bobby Firmino.
No,
I don't
agree.
I'm sorry, Chris. You can't listen to yourself.
Like, he is better.
Bobby Firmino last season. Did you see him? He was fucking unreal. He was one of the best strikers in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think Sturridge a couple of seasons before was the best striker in the Premier League. So let's have this right. I am not talking about Daniel Sturridge playing week in, week out. I'm about Daniel Sturridge, boxes ticked as a player, is a better player. And now you tell me a better player to bring off your bench than him. He's better than Ings. He's better than Origi. He's better than what most teams have got. I'm not on about replacing Bobby Firmino in the starting lineup. I'm saying he is an absolute brilliant option to bring on.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't think he'll attain the levels of fitness to replace Bobby Firmino. What I'm saying is, as a footballer, as with his skill set, he is a better footballer than Bobby Firmino.
Chris, all right, fair enough. Like, wait, we'll go around. So in shooting, I agree with he's probably better. But Craig, is Daniel Sturridge a better footballer than Bobby Firmino?
It's a really tough question.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
I'll give you two answers. One, the question of if I have anybody in that Liverpool squad through on goal in the last minute, I'm picking Daniel Sturridge over absolutely every single other person at the club, but Bobby Firmino's a better footballer.
Yeah. Chris, Dave.
Do we think that Daniel Sturridge would start over Bobby Firmino in the Brazil national team?
No.
But you'd have to get past Jesus first.
But
He had to get past Jesus. Maybe Chiche is a massive fan of Danny Sturridge.
manager, yeah.
Fully fit and firing Daniel Sturridge. Fully fit and firing Daniel Sturridge is a better footballer than Bobby Firmino.
Yeah, but that's so conditional. It's like me saying if I was a size 8, I'd be better looking than like a supermodel. Like it's not something that's a realistic thing.
Get on this
Like,
diet,
it's not
Chav.
realistic
Get on this
that a player's
diet, Chav.
fully
The weight
fit.
will fall off you.
How is it
but
not
he'll
realistic
never-
that a player's fully fit? He's a professional
He will
footballer.
never. Yeah, he is, but he will. For me, he's now 29. He will never be 100% fully fit the way that he needs to be again. That's my call.
I've said that myself, which is why I am saying I am not talking about him in a sense of replacing Bobby Firmino in the lineup week in, week out. Bobby Firmino brings something to that lineup to that side that Sturridge can't bring. And that's
So what you're
create the pressing.
Basically saying, who's better, 13-14 Sturridge or 17-18 Bobby Firmino?
Oh, 13-14 Sturridge every day of the week.
He was damn impressive
Now,
for 13, 14
that's
Sturridge,
a
to be
legitimate
fair.
question. That's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Every day of the week.
But that's what
Now-
Chris is getting at. Full on pelt, full pelt, both players at their
Yeah,
best. Who's a better footballer? I think that's what Chris was
very
going.
conditional because that's never happened.
That
again.
ability, but none of those abilities have gone. That's what I'm saying. What he's lost is he's lost some pace, and his fitness won't seem through 90 minutes of football week in, week out. We know that. I am not looking at this other than using him and concentrate. Now I go back to what Cash said. Would the player be happy with that? Well, the player's got to back himself like any player. If you believe in yourself, if you're going to back yourself, aren't you?
He's got nothing to lose, Chris. He's got 1 year left. If he does it at Liverpool in that year,
exactly.
he gets £7.5 million in wages anyway, and he gets a move somewhere else at the end of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think you'll see.
Perhaps a better move. Yeah.
I think he'd want to see out the year and then maybe go to MLS or something. I think someone like that he would absolutely tear up. Like, and I wouldn't begrudge him. He seems like a nice lad. Like, do you know what I mean? It is just a fitness issue, and I think, as I said, for me, it's would the player be happy with that? Because what we don't see is the sort of the delicate chemistry behind the scenes at the club, where all the players have got to be happy, in their given roles and stuff. And I just feel like, if you were to ask me, and Chris, I do agree with you, and don't feel like we're attacking your point of view. Like, I do agree with you. If I was to say any striker was to stay at the club, I would rather have Sturridge for a good Sturridge for 1 year. I'd rather have that than Ings for the next 3 years, being like he scored against West Brom, he's top drawer, he's good enough for Liverpool when he's fucking not. So that is what I'd want. But we can't ignore the players' body-based limitations. They are there. They are very real, and they are not going to improve with age. They're just not.
Right, I'm going to have to interject here. We've got 2 more things to get through, but thank you for giving me the name of the podcast there, by the way, because I absolutely know what this podcast is getting called now after this one. When I put the tagline in, it's brilliant, and I often struggle with that, so thank you for that one. Dave, I want to push on to our final topic in a moment, but beforehand, I don't want to rush past yesterday's pre-season friendly. 2 more things happened in that pre-season friendly. Young Wilson scored 2 very, very well taken goals and is giving the manager a genuine headache about what the hell to do with him. So firstly, I want to have a little chat about him. What do you think, Jurgen Klopp? He's staking a claim for himself at this point, young Wilson. Something's going to have to happen for his career.
He's at last chance saloon now, I think, with Liverpool as well. Klopp. I think the loan move to Hull, he done fantastically well. He took them 2 goals yesterday. Like, he had 5-10 years more experience under him. It was kind of like a Michael Owen finish as well. It was just very deft, very natural. I hope he does give Klopp a headache. I hope all players at the club are giving Klopp a good headache. Do I genuinely see him breaking through? I think it's too early to say. Again, I'm not using Chester as a benchmark against anything other than just fitness. Get the muscles going again. It'll be interesting to see will Harry Wilson be playing against the likes of United. I don't know who else we're playing in the States. Is it City as well? Is it?
I think so.
I'm not sure. Yeah. So, if he's coming on, and look, there's no such thing as a friendly against United. If he's coming on, and if he's doing well, then yeah, I'd say we keep the lad at the club and see can he push the lads that are there. But that's going to be his test. You might be able to do it at Hull, who were even struggling in the Championship last season. But to go back to play for Liverpool, not necessarily consistent, but to play for Liverpool, you need to be a world-class football player. And he has to be shown that. He certainly, I think, has the desire, and he has the bit between his teeth. But I think he knows himself that he can't He can't basically pass up any opportunity now that he has. He has to grab it with both hands.
Tom, the other big news from yesterday's pre-season game was a certain couple of midfielders who took to the field for Liverpool for the first time. They played 45 minutes each. Fabinho played the first half, and obviously Naby Keita came on for the second half. I've been waiting a long time to see that number 8 shirt on Naby Keita's back, mate, and he didn't disappoint.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. I didn't see much of that game, but I saw some of the highlights, and one of them in particular, which someone posted on Twitter with kind of like the tagline of Keita is perfect for Klopp's system, and it was just him getting the assist. I don't know whose goal it was actually, but basically
Sturridge.
One of the was it Sturridge? One of the Chester players, defenders had the ball near the goal, and he was basically just sprinting at them really aggressively, nicked the ball off him, laid it off to Sturridge, and he slotted it in. And you know, if that's what we've got to come for this season, then yeah, I'm super excited. And like you said, just seeing them in the kit, it makes it real. Like, it makes it really real, and it just feels like our midfield is so solid now. Like, we've got so much depth and so many options, and he genuinely looks like he could be world class. Like, I don't say that lightly, but you know, if we see him doing that in the Premier League in our midfield consistently, then he is genuinely could be a world class player. And to have that in our midfield this season is going to be so good.
Put a tasty challenge in as well. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's only the beginning. That's only the beginning of that as well. I've said it many times. I'm going to say again, he's going to break people in half, and he's not going to be afraid to do it.
I can't wait.
He's not going to be afraid to do it.
I cannot wait to watch. Cash, on the other side of that coin, we have Fabinho. And I feel like when we signed Fabinho, we almost got a 2-for-1 because we got Rebecca Tavares thrown in, and she has absolutely been brilliant. Her social media game is top notch. She's a great addition to Liverpool Football Club. Obviously, her husband will be as well, and it's easy to overlook him because Keita, I suppose, is the sexier footballer in this extent, and that he's a bit more all action. He's a bit more headline making. But Fabinho, I mean, he's one hell of a footballer, and I cannot wait to see him playing this Liverpool defensive midfield role.
Well, firstly, shout out to Rebecca Tavares, because first of all, she's beautiful, and I think we can all agree about that. But secondly, she, like you said to me the other day, Craig, she just gets it. Like, I'm not saying every single player's wife or spouse or whatever has to engage with the fans the way she's doing, but it's so refreshing that she is, and I feel like that's just going to be the way she is, and it's great. Like that tweet that she put up being like, yeah, Fabinho doesn't follow me on Twitter yet because the person that does his Twitter for him doesn't know I'm his wife. And she's just quite funny, isn't she? Like, she's just droll, and like, you know, if I asked her out for sushi, I think she'd go. Like, I'm single now. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask her. Particularly because I speak Spanish. I'll just speak Spanish. Sorry, right? I'm going off on a tangent. Moving back to the player.
I never would have thought, by the way, that the first person to sexualize women on this podcast wouldn't be one of us. It would be you. So well done for that one.
Well, firstly, I'm not sexualizing her because I wouldn't have. It would be sweet love. It would be sweet love making. So I'm not sexualizing her. I'm just putting her on a pedestal because that is where she belongs. I'm
sorry, there's not a man out there in the world who didn't think when you said the word sushi, something else came into his mind. I'm sorry. There's not one man alive that didn't have that thought.
This is why I don't care for the penis. This is why. This is man. No, I'm kidding. I like you guys, but not in a sex way. Anyway, right, moving on. So yeah, Fabinho. What was I talking about? Right, Fabinho as a footballer.
His missus. Okay, is pretty much all you're interested in, with the sounds of it.
You know what? It's a stuffy night here, and I feel a bit hot under the collar. Right. Anyway, so Fabinho, yes, I think so much about his signing was the player combined with the way that we made the signing. That's what caused fans to be so celebratory, because it was completely out of the blue, and everybody likes a genuine surprise, which this was. But I think if we're looking at buying players to dovetail and complement each other, I think Keita and Fabinho could really have that, because I think Fabinho is probably the more naturally conservative, and albeit Keita can play more conservatively, I think the idea is to sort of have Fabinho further back and allow Keita to roam. So, you know, if that's the thinking behind it, I think he's going to be like an absolutely perfect kind of foil for Keita to go and do, you know, destroy people like Dave was saying. So for me, it's like, welcome Fabinho and welcome to his beautiful and charming wife.
Guys, the last topic I've saved, and I've been looking forward to talking about this thing for a long time. I've been waiting for the right time to bring it up. I think now with the performances during the World Cup, I think this is the right time. Chris, I'm constantly sick of the shit that Jordan Henderson gets for Liverpool Football Club. I was sick of it when I seen the English fans start talking about it in the media as well. Jordan Henderson deserves immense respect. Jordan Henderson deserves to be the Liverpool captain, and Jordan Henderson damn well deserves to keep that Liverpool captain's armband this season, whether or not Van Dijk is in the team. I'm sick of it, buddy. I'm sick of him being put down. He's, as we've said before, he might not be the best footballer in the world, but he's certainly good enough to do what he's doing in this team, and a damn hard job.
Well, that just happens to be my favourite player at the moment at the club. I love his attitude. Always have done. You know, that he sweats blood for the shirt, and he's doing it for England now. And what's nice to see as well is the fans of other clubs are starting to notice. You know, you'll see it around on social media. I've got in conversations in the pub. There are a couple of people, you know, Henderson this, Henderson that, but not many, not as many as there perhaps used to be. People are starting to see his worth. And I think what we see from Henderson is a player who completely knows what he's about. He knows his capabilities, and he plays to his strengths, and his strengths are the ground that he covers, the work rate that he can give the side. Is tactically, you know, he's so tactical minded. He gets given a job to do by a manager, and he does it to the letter every single game, never deviates from it. He's vocal. Very vocal. You've seen it, you know, if you've not watched Liverpool, obviously anybody listening to this will have done, and you're watching him for the first time properly for a full game playing for England, you can see how vocal he is. You know, I go back further in this tournament. We won a penalty. It was the first penalty we won. That it was a foul on Kane, and it was from a set piece, and there were a number of like grappling fouls leading up to that had gone unnoticed by the referee. Henderson was screaming blue murder in the referee's ear, pointing out that this was going on right before the free kick was about to be taken, or the corner. And referee just stood on the spot, stood on the mark, looking at it, saw it and gave it. Pickford pulled off a brilliant save the other day in the last game. And Henderson ran back 50 yards after Sweden had broke, flung himself in front of the second effort that came in after Pickford's save, and then just as a third effort was about to come in, which ended up being skewed and going horribly wide, he threw himself back again in the other direction, almost in the same movement. So he threw himself to the right and then immediately to the left, putting his body on the line. And that's the kind of player he is. Leads by example, and I'm all for that. There's room for that in every single side. Every top team has had that. Well, I don't know what you would call him, sort of like a water carrying player who's disciplined and does everything to the letter, and that's what we've got in Henderson. And he's just such a down to earth and magnanimous guy as well, isn't he? Which again is something I like about any player. So. Yeah, I'm right with you there, Craig. I don't like the shit that he gets. I think it's completely unwarranted. I think he's far better than people give him credit for. He's really good on the ball, sets the tempo well. And we're seeing it, not just, you can't say, oh yeah, but he's in a Klopp side and Klopp's system works. We're watching him do it for England now in a completely different system. He's holding that midfield on his own. He's standing up and being counted. And that's the kind of player he is.
Tom, there was one situation during this World Cup with Jordan Henderson that made me roll around the ground laughing. It was the game against Colombia. England got awarded the penalty, and I think at this point it had been like 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes before Jordan Henderson finally had enough of the Colombians kicking up the penalty spot, distracting the referee, trying to pull Harry Kane off. And I know it was 4.5 minutes before the penalty was taken, but he went up to the referee and he was saying to the referee, like, whatever, he was saying, just hurry up, let this go. And he got fucking booked. All the Colombians were around the referee, taking 4.5 minutes, distracting Harry Kane as kicking up the penalty spot. And the idiot of a referee actually turns around and books Jordan Henderson for just trying to tell him to do his damn job.
Exactly, yeah. It was complete bollocks. And that just highlights what Chris was saying about him being vocal. You know, he does scream for every single challenge. You saw him being quite clever when he got headbutted, which, in my opinion, obviously as an England fan, but that's dangerous play no matter what way you look at it. That should be a red card and a penalty, in my opinion. He went down easily. It obviously didn't hurt him that much, but that's exactly what you have to do nowadays, sadly. Then, you know, so that's him being smart as well. So he is that real leader. there was a clip as well, which I saw on Twitter a few minutes ago. And I was talking about Pickford making some great saves in that Sweden game. I think it was that second save in the second half. During that, just after that save, Henderson was there. He made an amazing block, which I think has gone unnoticed because of the Pickford save. And he actually rolled on the ground just after it, like kind of did a barrel roll to try and get in for another block. And a few seconds later, when that ball went out of play, he celebrated like an absolute nutcase, like he had just scored a goal. And I think that just epitomises him.
That was the one I just mentioned. He did. He went screaming up the pitch, didn't he? Like celebrating. Like, he was superb. It's that attitude that I love about him. He's a warrior of a player.
Yeah, he cares so much. You can just see the pure. Like, he's got such a heart for the game, which I love.
And so you get people like Rio Ferdinand and other England fans and commentators now tweeting, "Oh, Henderson's actually been fantastic, and he's been one of our best players in the tournament. He's really upped his game and stepped his game up." And I'm thinking, I've seen him do this sort of thing for Liverpool the last season. I feel like he's been putting in big performances for us all of last season, pretty much in the Champions League, sitting at that whole base of that midfield. He has been doing that, tipping balls over the top like he did for Sterling in that game. He has been doing that for Salah and Mane for Liverpool. So, it's good to actually see he's now getting recognised, is what I'm trying to say. But I feel like a lot of Liverpool fans have been seeing this for a little while now.
He's just another unfashionable player. Like, if he, I think Rio said in the game where he hits that amazing ball into Sterling, like, if Pirlo does that, you're waxing lyrical about it. So, why not celebrate Jordan Brian Henderson? It's actually mocked the fact that he's not fashionable. And, what I would say is the biggest. And if you were a doubter before, and I think most Liverpool fans shouldn't have been, but if you were, look at the sheer drop off in quality when Dyer has come on in the World Cup to replace him. It is not; they're not comparable as players. And Dyer plays for never going to win a trophy, FC. You know what I mean? And they make out like if Dyer doesn't play for Spurs, he's not in that squad. So when you look at it, Henderson is twice the player. He really, really is. And Dyer has done more for Jordan Henderson in a sense than many other people in this World Cup run, because he's just emphasised and been demonstrative of the fact that Jordan is such a good player.
Dave, the biggest thing that's been thrown at Jordan Henderson, and something that's absolutely out of his control, he's being compared to Steven Gerrard absolutely unfairly. It is not Jordan Henderson's fault that he took the captain's armband after Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard wasn't compared to every Liverpool captain in performance levels that went before him. I think Jordan Henderson as Liverpool captain has more than proved himself to be an absolutely amazing captain. Just look at what happened at the Stadio Olimpico. Simple things like that, all these little gestures and all these things that go unseen. The letter to Dunboyne GAA club, I think it was, that sent Sean Cox's jersey over. Simple little things like that. Jordan Henderson has carried that captain's armband with tremendous respect, and I'm so proud to have him as captain of our football club. It really annoys me when our own fans start turning on him.
The biggest compliment I can give Jordan Henderson is, and Cash kind of touched on it there as well, and with anyone with a football brain will realise this, when Jordan Henderson is not in your team, that's when you notice it.
Yeah, we've noticed it before, 14, 15.
13, 14 season on the run-in, when he got 14, suspended.
Sorry, yeah. So it's nothing new.
No, Jordan Henderson, he's an absolutely fantastic midfielder. So professional. He's gone through a lot as well. I think one season when his old fella,
his father's had cancer.
That's right, but he was just before he was meant to go to Fulham. He's a hell of a professional. And as I said, just to reiterate, anyone who has a football brain, when you realise Jordan, you'll only realise how much you will miss him when he's not in your team. He's that good.
Chris,
100%. I think sorry, go on.
Chris, can you imagine if that deal had have happened? I talked about this the other night on a stream. Can you imagine if we had have taken Clint Dempsey and Jordan Henderson had have went in the other direction? I mean, it's not even worth thinking about at this point.
It's amazing because at the time, that's what everybody wanted at that time. And I honestly think that season we had, particularly later in the season, when we nearly won the league, I don't think we'd nearly win the league without Jordan Henderson in that side. I don't think we even come close to it. He was massively important to that side.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't think Dempsey would have would have helped us over the line either. So, you know,
No.
and Tom touched on that. It's that whipped ball he plays in where he's sort of like 30 to 25 yards out on the right, and he hits that first time ball that whips in over the back of the defense. It's kind of like his signature pass or cross, whatever you want to call it. And we scored quite a number of goals in that season. And because obviously during that season, I think it was something Rodgers did, and to Rodgers' credit, he spotted this with Jordan Henderson, how good he is at running in beyond and getting into that final third and making things happen, which we don't see now. So it kind of goes to show that the way Klopp's using him isn't something that isn't particularly the way Henderson likes to play or what gets the best out of him. And he's just doing that job for the team. So, you know, it's amazing. We've got a better player or a more sort of expressive player than we think we've got with Henderson, because we've seen it. I just think we've forgotten it.
Yeah,
you know, he can offer more than what we get from him.
Cash,
he's so disciplined.
If we're talking about Jordan Henderson and expression, then the one thing that comes to my mind is the look he gave Diego Costa. I'm never going to forget that look as long as I live. That was priceless.
Yeah, he's not afraid to get himself involved, though, is he? Like, he likes a scrap. He likes the verbals. You know what it is. I think there's no room for sentiment at the club, clearly. And Jordan Henderson is he not now our longest serving player? Like he has survived a lot at the club. He has survived 3 different managers, albeit one wanted to sell him. He survived all of that, and he's just like a really technically gifted midfield cockroach that refuses to die. So he's just, and I mean that metaphorically, obviously, but I don't know, we're buying all these midfielders. We're buying Keita, we're buying Fabinho, we've got, potentially more to come in. But there's just something really earnest about having Jordan Henderson as a focal point of that team that I don't want to see go away in the pursuit of something else. I think he will always be, as long as he's there, vital to the process, because he's so adaptable that he'll make himself relevant. Like, because as a footballer, you've got to adapt to make yourself relevant to different managers and different systems. And he is so good at that. I think he's unrivaled in that respect. So I love him. I really, really rate him. And as I say, if England go on to win the World Cup, I'll celebrate for him. I think, he is terrific. And he's one of those players, unlike Michael Owen, that when he retires, I want him to be an ambassador for the club, because he completely embodies what the club is meant to represent.
The only thing is, though, Dave, he can only pass the ball backwards. That's the only problem with him. He can't pass it forward.
I think the thing. Oh, stop! His passing is absolutely sublime. It really is, and he can see a pass pretty much before any other England player on that pitch as well. And that's not me being biased. He knows where the players are running into. And going back to the vocal thing as well, that's why he's vocal, because he knows his range of passing. He can tell players where he's going to put that ball as well. But I think this season coming up for Liverpool is where you're going to really see Jordan Henderson come to life, because he's going to have Keita in there, whose players going to be a lot more concentrated on, and Fabinho as well, who's going to be he's obviously a more defensive midfielder. So you're going to see Henderson hopefully push up that bit more, and he'll have a bit more space, and that's where you're really going to see Jordan Henderson come to life. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't come to life, but in a more kind of, I suppose, visual way, because he's going to have more time in the ball. There is going to be these more forward passes, sprayed 40, 50, 60 yards. And the one thing I'd say about him, and maybe he could improve in this, is his goal scoring return. Yeah. That would be his only downfall for me. But maybe with the system he plays, he might not be allowed to do that in this club team. But that's what I mean with Fabinho and Keita coming in as well. It'd be nice to see Jordan Henderson get between 7 and 10 league goals this season. That's
a fair point. And Tom, to finish up on this one, and it is a fair point that Dave said, we praise Jordan Henderson very highly here, but it is right to pick up on a couple of things that any footballer can improve on. But 2 things about Jordan Henderson for me. One, I think people underestimate quite how much he sets the tempo of Liverpool's play a lot of the time. And it's something that I really don't understand how people don't pick up on. You can see the difference when Jordan Henderson isn't in a Liverpool team. And secondly, Klopp has often spoke about competition being the best thing to bring the best out of footballers. So Davis touched on Keita coming in there and Fabinho. And there's no way Jordan Henderson, as a professional footballer, isn't going to see that as a gauntlet thrown down. and people just assume he's going to roll over, and we're going to have Fabinho, Keita, and say Fekir, for instance, in that Liverpool midfield. Jordan Henderson is going to step up his game, and we're going to see, as Dave also suggested, probably an even better Jordan Henderson this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the first part of your question about him being in the team and noticing it and setting the tempo, I 100% agree. And, you know, sometimes it's just those short, easy passes, slowing the game down. It's exactly what you need. Or, you know, spreading those long balls, telling people where to go. And I think his engine as well, that's the one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet. His engine is absolutely insane. Like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't drink at all, does he? He's teetotal.
No, he's teetotal.
It's actually, he is like... Yeah, he's just on a strict diet of diet chav no matter what.
He tested positive for diet chav for this last drugs test.
But I think he is like the consummate athlete in that team. I know we do have a lot of super fit players, but if there's one player in our squad that I feel like, yeah, he is, you know, the best and peak physical condition that he can be, then it's definitely him. And that suits this team 100% down to the ground. And you're exactly right, Craig, about competition. As we were talking about that, or you guys were talking about Case and Fabinho, I was thinking, what would our midfield three be? Or, you know, or potentially what system would we play? You know, would we go 4-2-3-1 and play him with Henderson and Fabinho in there? Or would we go 4-3-3, stick Fabinho, defensive midfielder, have Henderson a bit further forward on the right and Keita on the left? Or, you know, or if we get Fekir in, potentially, if that happens, where, you know, what kind of midfield would we have then? I don't know. I mean, it's a fantastic problem to have. I feel like we haven't had that kind of problem in a while because they're all top quality players. But I was going to ask
Gini's form as well towards the end of the season.
Exactly. And then we've got Gini,
brilliant.
Milner smashed the fitness test, the very first fitness test. Exactly. So he's obviously still well up for it, isn't he? And he's I think
the thing with it, and it's a great problem, is we were pretty rigid last season with the formation we played, and maybe because of a couple of injuries here as well in midfield, you know, we were limited. But I think what this gives us, it gives us the potential to play 3 or 4 different styles and formations, just depending on who we're playing as well. So we can really mix it up, which is going to give opposition teams a huge headache because they might watch a video of Liverpool for 2 or 3 games and it might be a completely different midfield that we play against. So they're like, oh, what the hell is going on here? I think the players we've brought in to the midfield improve the overall squad, but we can't look over the likes of Adam Lallana is going to be biting at the bit. James Milner is just the fittest man on earth. He's going to be in that midfield.
He swapped the Ribena for Diachav over the summer just because, you know, he's getting on a little bit.
He's another teetotaler.
Yeah, exactly. And we have the luxury of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain coming back, hopefully.
Oh God, I completely forgot about it. This is what I mean.
That's where my mind went earlier on when you were having the whole Sturridge conversation. I didn't get a chance to come back in on it, but I thought, look, if you at least even kept Sturridge there till Christmas, till Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain starts getting back to fitness, it's another option there for you going forward. Gents and ladies, we're going to have to call it there. It's been a really long pod. But you know what? It's happy times because this is the start of Liverpool coming back. This is the start of us getting to actually look at games, look at performances, and not just look at the hypotheticals, which have been the transfer window and, you know, things that might go on. So massive thank you to Chris, to Cash, to Dave, and to Tom for joining me, and of course to you guys for listening. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, help us grow the channel. And we'll be back. What day is this? And we'll be gone on Monday, so we'll be back during the week with a transfer podcast. Hopefully something will have happened over the coming days because the World Cup's coming to a close, so players are starting to free up and we probably will see things move. Until then, thank you all for listening and up the Reds.